Hi everybody. Today we're going to go over Eli Color's MaxLift Lightening systems. Each one of you should have a manual, and this manual is specifically designed to go into our different lighteners that we've created for you. So if you want to go ahead and open up your manual, talking about lightening systems. Again, for me being an innovator, one of the most important things is integrity and condition of hair. And creating products that's going to keep the hair the healthiest we possibly can. But we make 3 different lighteners, and there's a reason why we make the different ones and to really understand them. Some of the feedback that I get from other companies is like, why aren't you making a lightener that lists 9 levels, or a very super aggressive lightener? And first of all, from a 2 to an 8 or a 10, that's 8 levels. I don't think a level 2 should be a 10. In all honesty, what do you need something that aggressive for? Should a level 1 person be a 10? Do they have the money to maintain that? And what is that really going to do to the integrity of their hair? If they're a level 1 or 2, why don't you make their base a beautiful 6 or a 7 and put beautiful melting and balayage and highlights through it and create dimensional color work? So I'm about creating lighteners that we still have a very aggressive one, but to actually protect the hair. And if you want to use something that's more aggressive and going to destroy the hair, then that's your prerogative, right? But for me, it is about integrity and doing stuff that looks the best on your clients. That being said, we make 3 different lighteners, but I want to talk a little bit about how lightener works, because it's really important that we understand what's happening to the cortex layer of the hair and what's inside the hair. And a lot of people ask me, what's the processing time on lighteners? Well, all lighteners with any manufacturer will die within 35 to 40 minutes. They're done. But the processing time is to the lift to the level of RPC that you want to paint on. Processing time is to go to where you want to go. Like if I have a level 2 and I want to make her an 8, then the processing time is when I get her hair to yellow-orange. That's level 8. Does that make sense? So processing time is to achieve the RPC that you want to see. I know a lot of hairdressers out there, and I've watched a lot of hairdressers that don't know how to neutralize level 8 though. So they lift until they can get to pale yellow, then they deposit down their color. Well, if you lift that light and then you deposit down to get the color that you want, it's going to fade twice as fast. It has nothing left in there to anchor it. It has no RPC. Does that make sense? So lift to the level that you want to achieve. So what we're doing when we're lightening hair with a lightener is removing the natural melanin. Okay? There's 2 different types of melanin in the hair. We have our eumelanin and we have our phyomelanin. Eumelanin consists of all 3 primaries, red, yellow, and blue. But it's dominant with your bigger, deeper, darker primary blue. Okay? It's a larger molecule of melanin. So, one of the things that I always speak about when we lift hair is the stages that the hair goes through. So many manufacturers talk about at level 1, the hair is blue, 2 blue violet, 3 violet, 4 red violet, 5 red. How many times have you put a lightener on hair by any brand, and you saw it turn blue violet, or red violet? I never have, and I've been doing hair for 35 years. The first thing I see is red! Right? Isn't that the first thing that we see as soon as we open up that cuticle with a lightener? Red. And then we see the red, orange, and the orange, and so forth. So the reason that happens is if you look at the manual again, and you look at what's happening. First of all, blue in hair isn't blue like my watch or like his glasses. Blue in hair is gray. That's why a lot of color lines, they call their blue series their smoke series, or their titanium series, or the lighter levels, they're platinums or platinas. And the only place you really see the blue is at level 1 where it's blue-black, because that blue pigment's so strong. So when even my graphic artist first designed it, it looked like a blue ring, like the color of blue on my watch. And I'm like, no, 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 no. It needs to look like 722, blue. That color of blue. He's like, well, that's not blue, that's gray. And I'm like, that's the blue that's in the air. So, again, to get what I want to see. When we lift the cuticle, because it's the largest molecule, it's the first one gone. As soon as you open the cuticle, it's gone. And that leaves the rest of what you see. And isn't that what we see happening to the hair? Wow. And you can't get it all out. It's impossible. If you tell us all out, you lift it off the head. Okay? Because there's nothing left. But you can get it to the pale-ish yellow. And this is what we call the remaining pigment. The remaining melanin left in the hair. This is what we paint on as hairdressers. Does that make sense? That's why it's so important to understand exactly the level that we're working on and what we're painting on, so we can either enhance this or eliminate it if we don't want it. So, this breaks down what happens inside the hair as we start to remove it. So, your alkaline agent, the ammonia, which is usually what's in your lighteners, are what soften the cuticle layer and allow the oxidation process of your activator to start lifting it out. Okay? And then you'll see it go through exactly what I'm talking about. And that's why we don't see the blue violet, the violet. Because as soon as we open up the cuticle, the melanin is gone. And what we see is biomelanin. And that's our life as a hairdresser. So make this your best friend, because this friend is never leaving and never going away. So you may as well learn to get along with them and understand them inside out, because this is the most important thing to do. Okay? Your activators. With Eli Color, we make several different activators. We have 10 through 40 or 3 through 12 if you go by percentages, and what they will give you in lift. When you're using lighteners, this goes over each one of them and how aggressive they are to get your amount of lift. 12%, I don't recommend ever. Now off the scalp, I know some people that want to use it, and you can, it won't destroy the hair, but what it's going to do is it's going to die quicker because it loses its lifting ability. The higher the volume, the quicker it dies. Okay? So how many of you have ever used low volumes, 3% with your lighteners? And actually they lift quite amazingly. And they keep on working, okay, because there's less air in them. So really understanding what you're doing when you're lifting. On the scalp, you can go use up to 9%. But never, ever 12% on the scalp. If you were to use 12%, do it off the scalp, but again, it's going to die quicker than the 9%. The 9% will die quicker than the 6%. And you'll get more lift if you use a lower volume, okay? So really keep that in mind as you start to lift. Again, lifting, the processing time on lightener is to lift to the level that you want to achieve. Then shampoo out. I always believe you should shampoo out a lightener twice because it leaves a residue. Any lightener in the world. And you need to make sure it's completely off. So I always shampoo any lightener out twice before I do any type of color work on top of my lightener. Even if you like the tonal value that you get from your lightener, because I see a lot of hairdressers, especially in LA, that do that, they call it the beach blonde. And they don't tone their lighteners because they love that super light pale yellow color that they get. But even if you like that color, lightener lifts the cuticle. It swells the cuticle and raises the cuticle. You need to close that cuticle and make it shiny, make it soft. And because it's in an alkaline state. So even if you like the tonal value that you get from a lightener, use our pH regulating activator and clear and close that cuticle and make it smooth. and lower the pH back down to a natural pH of 7, okay? And if you wanted, you could always add a little color to it. You could use clear with a tiny bit of a 12-0 or anything to add a little bit of a tone to it and add a little bit of pigment in there. But always make sure after a lightener, you bring the hair back down to a natural pH. It's very important because it's been swollen from the alkalinity of the lightener. Now we make 3 different lighteners with Eli color, and there's a reason for each one of them. So the first lightener is our MaxLift powder. It's our most aggressive lightener, and it smells really good, like blueberries. It's a complete dust-free lightener. It will lift up to 8 levels. Again, that depends on the type of hair that you're working on. How coarse is it? Is it virgin hair? Is it not virgin hair? There's many variables when you start lifting, but it is our most aggressive one. And this lightener, the best mixing ratio, again, people ask, what is the mixing ratio on lighteners? Again, honestly, they're to your, how your consistency that you like. I have suggested manufacturer ones that I think is the perfect consistency. And with this lightener, I suggest 2 parts activator to 1 part powder. Again, if you have more powder than you do activator, it's going to be more aggressive, it's going to lift faster, and it's going to also die faster. If you have more activator than powder, it's going to lift slower, it's not going to die as fast. Does that make sense? So for the best mixing ratio for me, I recommend with this lightener to use 2 parts activator and 1 part powder, and it's our most aggressive one. Now, our next lightener is MaxLift Cream, and it comes in a pouch. And this one is an amazing ammonia-free lightener. Now, there's a reason why I want to make an ammonia-free lightener, because of integrity of hair. Also, lots of times we're not just doing a lightener, but we're alternating foils. And we're using a high lift tint, and we're using a lightener, and a high lift tint and a lightener, so we can get dimensional color work. Well, if you're using a very aggressive powder lightener, it's going to get done before your high lift tint's done, because the high lift tint's usually on the hair for 55 minutes. So then I see people chasing off the lightener with a water bottle and a towel while they're waiting for the high lifts to do their job. Makes it very difficult to go in between your meshes or foils and do a base color. So if you can have an ammonia-free lightener that will lift as much as the aggressive lightener, but be a little bit slower and completely ammonia-free and much gentler on the integrity of the hair, it allows you the time to alternate foils and working with a high lift tint and not worry about jeopardizing the integrity of the hair, which is really, really important. How many of you have ever been taught or ever seen when you're doing a lightener, like you get a client that will come in and have level 2 or 3 at the root, then the mid shaft, it didn't get quite as light as they wanted, and you have that little bit of that orange hue through the mid shaft. Then out on the ends, it's kind of yellow like the banana, but the whole thing, you just wanted it to be pale yellow. So the hairdresser at the root mixes their 9% and their powder at the root. Then through the mid shaft, they drop it down to 6% on the orange and the same powder. Then out on the end, they drop it down to even a lower volume and the powder, and then they triple fold it up. Ever seen it done? There's no more difference in damage in 12% than 3%. So you're doing the same amount of damage on those ends as if you would have just ran the 9% all the way through. All hydrogen peroxide is the same in pH. And it's shocking to me how many people think the higher the volume, the more damage it is. How many times I've done a class and they're, oh my God, you're gonna put 40 volume on your roots? Well, actually 40 volume, in my opinion, would be more gentle than 3% because the difference between them is air. It's air. All hydrogen peroxide is acidic and it's 3.3 to 3.5. They're all the same pH. There's no difference. They're all the same. The difference is 3% means in that bottle, 97% of it is your buffered waters, your viscosity mixtures, your conditioning agents, and 3% air. 12% is 88% water, your conditioning agent, your buffers, and 12% air. There's the difference. Air. H2O2, oxygen. Wow. Let's teach the truth. Let's not be afraid of it. Let's understand what they do. It's what you mix them with that causes damage. You mix 12% with something with 6% ammonia, you may cause a little damage to the hair. You mix it with something with 14% ammonia, you might see hair smoke. Okay? It's what you mix it with that causes the damage. When my mother started doing hair, they had 130 volume. Not 40 volume, 130 volume. You still buy it in the United States. 130 volume. Can you imagine? And they used it with bleaches that were made 30 years ago that were at 15 to 20% ammonia content. So they would put a cap on the poor client's hair and jerk it through with a hook, and then they'd mix 130 volume in this powder. It was white in 3 minutes. And they call it frosting. And you could stretch the hair from here to Danny's. It was like snot. It was like slime. Technology's changed a lot, just since I was a kid playing with this stuff in her salon. A whole lot. So understanding what these products do and learning how to work with them properly. So never be afraid of your 12%. Be afraid of what you're mixing it with, and understand what you're mixing it with. Okay, because that's the key. So our powder or our cream is a 100% ammonia free. But it lifts, and it lifts gentle, and it lifts a little bit slower. And we're getting amazing reviews on it because of the consistency. A lot of people prefer that one. They love it. So, whichever one you use. But if I'm working on the person with the dark hair, I may use my MaxLift powder at the root. But when I start working on hair that's, I just need to bust a little bit lighter, and I'm worried about the integrity of it, I'll switch to my ammonia-free cream in that section with my activator and then fold it up and protect the integrity of the hair. Does that make sense?
Would you use this for color correction?
I love it for color correction because usually when we're working on color correction, we're working on extremely jeopardized integrity, and a lot of time the color corrections is something that they've done at home, and usually when it's stuff that's been done at home, it's very high in alkalinity. A lot of the stuff that you can pick up in the retail markets are a lot higher in alkalinity. And so, and when you don't know, you have a pretty good idea when you can feel the hair. And if the hair feels like a scouring pad, I would be really concerned. So it's a perfect one on color correction. It's the one that I always grab whenever I'm working on color correction.
You don't make Effersol and you don't make colour removers.
No, I don't.
So you would use this in the same way as you would use a colour remover or a...
Absolutely. And the reason I don't make Effersols or some of those, because they are extremely harsh and they're very alkaline. And a lot of the different ones, especially they used to be sulfur based, a lot of them are already discontinued because they revert. So you might get it out, 3 days later it's back. So to me, if you can't remove it with a lightener by actually pulling it out, it's not coming out anyway. So that's why I don't make them, and this is the perfect one to use. So that's a great question for any type of removing pigment from hair or doing color correction, and the gentlest one we can use because it is 100% ammonia free.
Yeah, ammonia free. So what's in it?
There's many different activating agents that can make something alkaline. I love that question because that's why I did a pH scale actually in the regular manual. I drink alkaline water, and the alkaline water I drink at Whole Foods because they get. There's articles out, if you drink alkaline water and your body's in an alkaline state, disease can't live in your body. cancer or anything. So I'm a huge fan of drinking alkaline water. The alkaline water I drink is 9.5 pH. It's higher in alkalinity than my hair color, and it's water. It's water. It's alkaline water. They have alkaline water, you get a pH of 10, which is almost as high as the alkalinity in my ammonia hair color, which is 12. Shocking! So, really understanding what can make things alkaline or acid is amazing. So, you don't have to use ammonia to create alkalinity. And that's a great question, because what is making your product alkaline? A lot of these color lines that are promoting themselves, because ammonia got a bad rap. Let's talk about the ammonia for a minute. Because ammonia has a really bad rap, because it stinks. And it has a smell. But ammonia is a natural agent. It's a liquid gas that evaporates. The human body produces ammonia. I always tell people, have you ever been to an outhouse at a county fair? And it burns your eyes when you open the door. That's human ammonia. It doesn't smell really good and it burns your eyes. That gas is evaporating, okay? And we created it. Okay, so ammonia is a natural gas that has a smell and evaporates. But manufacturers thought, wow, imagine if we could camouflage it and we didn't have a smell, how nice that would be. I agree, because the color lines I used 34, 35 years ago, I could smell them at the restaurant across the street. Because of the high amount of ammonia. The reason we need a higher amount of ammonia, the pigments were much larger. And we couldn't get them in the hair. So we had to lift the cuticle 20 to 25 degrees so you could get that pigment in there and get it to work. That's why I don't understand why a hairdresser would use a hair color line that's 40 years old, because there's pigments that are 10 times smaller than that now, that will actually bond in the hair and hold longer and not fade and not make the hair feel like a broom, because you don't even need to open the cuticle that much. Understanding the new technology and using stuff that's different, that saves the integrity of the hair, and really understanding it. So companies were actually really smart for manufacturing or marketing purposes to create ammonia-free color. But how many people said, what'd you replace the ammonia with? And what's the content of that agent that you use? What's the alkaline agent that you use to replace the ammonia? The hairdressers just said, wow, it's ammonia-free. We finally have gentle hair color. Wow, really? What's making it work? Monoethanolamine, usually number 1, MEA. You have to use 6 to 10 times the amount. So if you're using a 2% ammonia content, you've got 12% monoethanolamine. Monoethanolamine is an ethanol alcohol that dries the hair out and doesn't evaporate. It leaves residue in the hair and keeps on lifting and keeps on working in the hair 3 to 5 days later. And every color line out there that has it in it, the hair feels like a straw, like a broom, brittle and dry, especially over time when you keep using it. I'm not going to say brands, but I'm sure you guys have tried a few of them out there, and you saw the end result.
The girl yesterday had the garlic free from ammonia.
And did...
And it was lifted when it was that well, you saw how light it was practically an ink.
Yeah. And did you see the integrity of her hair, what it did to it? Yeah. And how the frizzy flyaways were. But the consumer doesn't know. They're marketing to the consumer, ammonia free. The consumer thinks it's completely gentle, and they have no idea. But there's...
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
When we bleach in hair, would you say that it's, obviously we know we shouldn't be bleaching on top of bleach, but if somebody wants, say they like this colour on the ends, but they're on the yellowy colour, would you put bleach through there?
I would, but I would do a test strand first, and if I did, that's exactly when, like I was saying with the other colors, I would use the ammonia free. Because it's a color correction. You don't know who bleached it, what they bleached it with, what they were working on top of before. Was it someone who was previously a blonde that they put dark pigment on, and then they tried to bleach it out at home? Or was it someone that had virgin hair that had bleach and just didn't get the lift that they wanted? There's so many variables.
But if that's breaking down the disulfur bonds, are we not doing a lot more damage by putting a lightener on?
You're always going to create more damage, yes. And that's why we do a test strand. The best thing about a test strand too, as soon as it lifts any part of the cuticle, you can see the history. You can see the history, and you already know what you're working on. And that right there will tell you, okay, I need to stop, or I can continue, and it will I'm not going to touch this client.
Because there's a product out there that would take somebody from dark to white blonde. It's obviously got a bleaching agent in it.
Absolutely.
Or a purple, and they'll take them directly that colour, but when they're overdue with the hair stamped off.
Well, it'll blow right off with the blow dryer, yeah.
So it's not a colour, it's a bleach. They don't advertise it as a bleach.
Never. They never do. And it's a very, very good question. So again, for me, test strands, when you don't know what's going on or you're doing a color correction, when they come in with all these different things, the best thing to do is do a test strand. Because there is not enough money on the planet to set yourself up for hair color failure. I wouldn't do it. The best thing you can do is say no. And let them go down the street and let them melt it off. Because they will come back to you and say, my God, I should have listened to you, can you fix it now? So, I know what it's like on a Saturday and you have 3 hours and that walk-in comes in and you think, wow, this could be a really big money ticket. She needs a major color correction. But do a test strand first and don't set yourself up to make you frustrated at the end of the day 3 hours later and you didn't get what you wanted. She didn't get what she wanted. She's going to go tell everybody, don't ever go to him. Look what he did. And it's not your fault. It is your fault because you touched it. And you shouldn't have. And you knew better. But I know what it's like to want that 150 euros too. Or pounds. But don't do it. There's not enough money in the world to set yourself up to fail. Set yourself up for integrity. And they'll come back to you. And if they don't, it's okay. There's lots of clients out there. But test strands are so important, and to see what's going to happen, especially when it's not your work and you haven't done it and you don't know the history. Because how many times do you have the client that said, I only colored it once, 6 months ago? Right. And then you do the test strand, and at the roots it lifts beautiful. You get out to yellow, and then right here it turns yellow-orange. Then right here it turns red, and then right the last 6 inches stay black. Yeah, she only did it one time, that's for sure. Yeah.
So Max, obviously going back to the MEA thing, is this why you've chosen obviously a lower amount of ammonia in the tin? Because obviously too much ammonia is going to lift the hair up and...
Well, the reason I chose a lower amount of ammonia is because now I have smaller molecules. I don't need to swell up the cuticle anymore. I don't need that. If I was still working with molecules that were the size they were 20 years ago, I would still have to have a higher ammonia content. It's unnecessary now. How many brands have less than 2% or less than 1% ammonia now? Lots of them that are starting to come out. They have lower ammonia because they don't need it. There are smaller molecules out there. And so if you can lift the cuticle 7 to 10 degrees and get those pigments in there, you can shut it completely. And then it feels like virgin hair. See, years ago, clients used to, hair color was more, not about fashion, it was more about gray. The client would sit in my chair and they'd say, do you think I'm ready to start coloring my hair yet? Or I think I can maybe get by another year or two before I start coloring. Because they were under the impression, and it was true, that hair color dries out your hair and damages your hair. So the only reason people colored their hair mainly was to get rid of the gray. Well, now look, color's a fashion statement. A 14-year-old should be able to do color. It doesn't hurt your hair. It's a whole different, now it is fashion now. And that's because we can actually make the hair feel better. I can have someone who has virgin hair, who has really damaged hair, because now they can go buy our hot tools that are professional, that are as hot as the ones we use in the salon. They should be allowed to buy those. And do you think they run through those sections like we do? No. They bake them through. And then they go jump to Spain and jump in the salt water. And then they come back and their hair feels dry, brittle, porous, and it's fried from flat irons and they've never had color in their life. Our hair color is actually going to make their hair feel better. It's going to rebuild that hair. It's going to condition that hair, and it's going to put stuff back in the hair that's missing. And so hair color can actually rebuild hair nowadays. It's incredible what we can do with it.
I've seen that massively. I've worked with colour that's got reconstructors in that rebuild from the inside out. But today I've seen somebody, Linda, has had a haircut 4 weeks ago, and the light reflected, I thought was unbelievable. The shine. The look,
Isn't it amazing?
fabulous.
So, new technology. And what we can do, I mean, come on, we put a man on the moon 50 years ago, and we can't rebuild hair. We can't get red to cover gray. Are you kidding? And they can make iPhones? Come on. The technology's there. It's a world we live in. So why not tap into it? Why not learn how to use it? Why not? Don't you want to learn the new stuff in hair too? Not just your phone, not just your computerized things like you were just telling me about the, I didn't even know it for my bike today. He's giving me an idea so I can listen to music and still hear. I'm like, wow, there's stuff out there that I don't even know exists that you can do. There's stuff my phone can do that I don't even know it can do. I actually need to go to an iPhone school to teach me how to do the different things it can do. But why wouldn't you want to learn that about your career? The thing that makes you your living, your hobby. It's a hobby. I posted the picture today. We don't even work. All we do is play all day. It's our hobby. We're so lucky to have a field that we love. I mean, it's work, but imagine if you had to go to the job that you really don't like some of my friends. That would suck, right? Like, we get to actually have fun doing what we love and making people feel good. And that's an awesome career to be in. And so enjoy it and learn how to be best you can at it. So again, you can rebuild hair structure, so really knowing the difference. And MEA has a bad rap now too, because of what I just told you, because they're using it as a lifting agent. But there's other things that are good for. There's MEA and Eli Color. But a teeny amount. It's not my lifting agent. My lifting agent is a little bit of ammonia. The monoethanolamine I use to break down my guar gum, it's like a sap. And it's the first color line in the world to use it, but we tried it, and if we use just a teeny amount of MEA, it breaks it down and gives it that slip. And those of you who've ever used it, is it not amazing, the spreadability and the slip and the little amount you get? Understand what you're doing when you're using products and what they're for, and educate people. So, again, that's really important for me as a company, to really provide you, how about the truth, on products and what they work, and inspire you to maybe look into what companies are using and what they're really teaching and what they do. So with our lightning systems, that's the MaxLift Cream. It is our ammonia-free one. It is the one that you're going to work with color correction. It is the one, if you want to create something and you don't know if it's safe enough to do it, to do your test strands, to do your testing. It is the one if you're going to alternate foils with the color that's going to be on the hair for a long time, or you're going to be doing dimensional color work because it buys you time. It's a great lightener to work with. But again, we still need MaxLift powder because we need it, and there's a need for it. And it's a very gentle one. The third one in here is actually our MaxLift paste. And MaxLift paste, now the cream, the mixing ratio on that one, I forgot to give you, is 1:1, is the best mixing ratio. And then the MaxLift paste, they're all coming out with them now. Clays are these different freehand lighteners are what they are. And I think it's awesome that we can finally freehand our dimensional color work and do different things with the freehand lightener. I have a friend who in New York just recently talked to me. He said, Max, he goes, I'm finally doing color, because he was in departmentalized and all these different things, but he's like, I'm trying to figure out how to price it. What should I put in my menu for a partial and a full? I said, we should take those two words and throw them out the door, because we don't do those anymore. We do freehand artwork. And it's awesome, and actually it's beautiful. They're paying for your art, for how you paint, how you apply. And I used to be that crazy guy. I mean, my friend Joe Blackwell from New York, L'Oreal, she teaches the 35 foils. And I used to always say, my God, 35 foils? How can you do a whole head and charge it for a full foil for 35 when I'm the guy who would put in 150 and not miss one hair? And then when you put the two clients side by side, you can't tell the difference. It was just me. I felt like I wasn't giving them every little thing. But now we have melting, and it looks fabulous, and that's not 150 foils, and it looks unbelievable. And looking at the hair and the way the hair grows and the patterns and the way it flows and being able to pick it up and do it where you want. So MaxLift Paste is a freehand lightener that you can put it on any section of hair. I love if I want to replace meshes and foils, because I can do sections with the whole thing and use a board and put it on, and it doesn't bleed. It won't cause a holiday on the scalp, and it'll lift. You can do the whole head without ever using a mesh or a foil. I love it for freehand chunky pieces and doing different things. You can put it right next to color. As long as you don't comb through it, try to make it bleed together, you can lay it right next in sections and do different things with this lightener. And again, it won't go onto the scalp or cause hot spots unless you push it onto the scalp. So you don't need cotton or anything to work with it. I'm having a lot of fun with it because I actually go to the craft store and I buy paintbrushes. So I can do big chunks or do different things with it. And then the next section I'll pick up the color. And then chunk and then the color. And then after I shampoo out the lightener, I'll put the glaze of whatever color I want on those lighteners to enhance my color. So it's a really fun one to work with. It's probably one of our most popular ones. When you're doing melting and balayage type work, you shouldn't be lifting more than 6 levels. So this one lifts up to 6 levels. The best mixing ratio for the paste is 1.5 parts activator to 1 part paste. Usually you're removing color, you're doing different things, and it's in the air, so air's hitting it, it's not wrapped up in a mesh or a foil or something. So usually the best activator to work with it is your 9%, but if you just want subtle melting pieces, of course you can use a lower volume activator. Again, I would never use my 12% with the paste because it's going to die much quicker. Okay? Does that help you with the processing time? So again, with lighteners, I do have a page on application. I think the 2 most important things we do with hair is formula and application. And application shocks me as I travel the world too. When you're doing a lightener, you need to get it on as fast as you possibly can. You want to work where the hair is the darkest first. Always section your hair in your quadrants, like you learned in school. Do your back 2 quadrants first. Don't put it on the roots. The heat from your scalp is going to lift faster at the root. So I always start 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch or 1.5 centimeters from the scalp, and I'll apply my lightener, and then I go back and hit the root. Okay? Shampoo out twice, like I said. Lighteners leave a residue. You want to get it completely off. One thing about shampooing out a lightener, don't touch their scalp. You've already, the heat from their scalp and from the active ingredients of a lightener brings the blood to the scalp, so they're scalp sensitive. So whenever you're doing color work shampooing, it's not about comfort and an invigorating scalp massage. It's about keeping your fingers off the scalp. So don't touch their scalp. Rinse the scalp, but clean the hair. Shampoo the hair twice and get that residue off of there thoroughly, and then towel dry the hair. After you towel dry the hair, then I would use our Max Pro protein spray, because now you've got hair strands, cuticles that are wide open and they're hungry for protein. And if you use our Max Pro protein spray, it's also a frost equalizer because of the different sizes of protein molecules in it. So the smaller ones will go into the deepest parts that are open, and the larger ones land on it. And then you've got even porosity to do any of your color work or toning on top of. And again, if you don't want to change the color that the lightener did, then you still, after the protein spray, want to put clear and pH regulator and seal that cuticle and close it and make it shiny and vibrant. Okay? Do you have any questions with the lightning systems?
Yeah, I do. Going back to, so you get more lift if you use a lower volume. So is it still only going to lift 4 though, or you are going to get more the longer you leave it?
You will, the lower volume keeps on working.
Right.
So for example, you won't get it doesn't mean you're going to get 8 levels of
No,
lift.
I'm saying it.
What it means is it won't die as fast. I used to be the guy in the 80s, honestly, on dark hair, and because I didn't know better, I thought 40 volume is always going to make the lightest. And I would always use 40 volume on my dark level 2, level 3 people and do my highlights. and it always dyed it yellow-orange. Right at the pumpkin is where it quit. I actually went to, there's an organization in the United States called ABCH. It's the American Board of Certified Hair Colorists. It's an incredible organization. And I went through classes with them, and I met some black girls that owned a salon, and they were teaching lighteners. And I'm like, I'm gonna go sit in that class. They blew my mind, and they were using lower volumes, and they were teaching how lower volumes don't dye as fast as the 40 volume. And I actually flew to Sacramento, California, and spent 2 days in their salon to learn from them. And it blew my mind what I could see happening. And I was like, wow, because that oxygen, it's like, when you hit that 40 volume with that high alkalinity, it's boom, like an explosion. And it dies, and then it's smoldering. It's weaker. And then what happens is the hairdresser goes, oh, it's been 20 minutes, it's not lifting. I'm gonna kick it back in. And they go heat up a hooded dryer and throw the pie in under there, thinking it's gonna lift lighter. All they're doing now is curling their toenails and making them go, this hurts. It's not, if you're lucky, maybe you get a quarter of a level or half a level of lift. But it's already dead. It died when you mixed it and it went boom. It's real cool when a firecracker pops, but can you make it pop again? By putting them under the dryer, it's not gonna pop no more. It already popped. But if you can make the firecracker a flame, like a dragon, so when you use the lower volume, it doesn't blow it up, it doesn't activate it as fast, and it gets stronger, the fire. And it keeps on working and doesn't die as quick. And when I went back and started using only 9 or actually 6%, it made it past the pumpkin and got all the way out to the banana. And I went, oh my God, and guess what? It felt like hair because I didn't explode it. So lower volumes doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna lift from a 2 to a 10, but it does take longer. You'll get more even. It will lift lighter and won't die as quick, and it will feel like hair when you're done, which is incredible. I'm the biggest fan, honestly, of 3% and powder lightener. It's gonna lift 6-7 levels. How lucky do I want to get the hair? If they're a level 3, that's called a 10. I can get there. So really understanding your lighteners and what you're doing with them. Any other questions with the lightning systems? All right, have fun lightening hair.
Thank you, Max.